What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back. It's your host, Bruce GNT. And we're here to talk about something that I'm not seeing a lot of people speak out on, or I don't even think it's on a lot of people's radar. This is a new bill that they have set forth called SB 771. And essentially what that's going to do is that's going to kind of limit on hate speech, all right? It's going to make it so that social media companies that make over $100 million a year, right, which are most social media companies, they're going to be held liable for having hate speech on their platform. What is hate speech? We've been over this. It could be up for interpretation. So I'm not gonna waste any time. We're gonna jump right into this video and then we're gonna go through the bill itself and see what we can mine out from there.
Major heat online tonight over a proposed California law. It attempts to hold social media companies accountable for threatening content.
But some conservative social media accounts and personalities have been warning that it could severely limit free speech and result in major penalties against people. KCRA3's political director Ashley Zavala is getting the facts on this proposal.
To silence us on social media.
A proposed California law is getting into the center of the free speech debate online. Former reality TV star turned political activist Spencer Pratt posting this video Thursday, urging people to call Governor Newsom to reject Senate Bill 771. The bill specifically targets major social media platforms such as Facebook and X. It would place up to $1 million fines and civil penalties for the role platforms could play in hate crimes by amplifying threatening content or using algorithms that push it. State law already punishes individual people who do so.
I will guarantee you that Newsom thinks me calling him out for letting 12 senior citizens burn alive in Pacific Palisades, I would guarantee him and his social media team would consider that hateful content.
In no way, shape, or form is that accurate.
Ed Howard is the senior legal counsel for the Children's Advocacy Institute at the University of San Diego School of Law. He helped Democratic lawmakers write the proposal.
The First Amendment protects offensive, salacious, insensitive, horrifying, terrible things that people say. The bill is in fact about the right of Mr. Pratt, the right of me, and the right of every single one of your viewers to be protected from threats of violence in response to his speech if those threats of violence would legitimately and reasonably place a regular old person in fear for their lives or being harmed.
Is this an attempt to have the government dictate what social media companies can keep up or down?
No, it's the other way around. Look, one thing that ought to unite everybody on the political spectrum is nobody should be trusting the social media platforms to be the guardians of our free speech.
But social media companies are fighting the bill and have warned that it violates the First Amendment.
While the bill seeks to hold platforms accountable for egregious behavior, its structure risks sweeping and protected speech and imposing extraordinary penalties based on subjective judgments about user content, including content the platform did not create.
X's global government affairs account posted, in part, it's alarming that California lawmakers sworn to uphold the Constitution have so brazenly ignored their oath. Governor Gavin Newsom has until October 13th to decide what to do with it. At the state capitol, Ashley Zavala, KCRA3.
We're going to delve into that a little bit because you can literally just find bills online. That's what I usually do, especially when people say, well, this is passed, so that hasn't passed. I like to go straight to the source, all right? I like to make sure that I know what I'm talking about, because if I don't and I'm just out here just spewing nonsense, that could be a problem. So essentially what I want to do, right, is I just want to go over, I guess, as quickly as I can and concisely as I can. So we're going to read through this together and then we're going to go from there. Existing law generally regulates social media platforms, including by requiring a social media company to post terms of service for each social media platform owned or operated by the company in a manner reasonably designed to inform all users of the social media platform of the existence and contents of the terms of service as prescribed. Existing law generally prohibits a person from using violence or intimidation to interfere with another person's enjoyment of certain rights or because of certain attributes of that person, including the person's political affiliation, race, or sexual orientation, and punishes violations of that law with certain civil penalties or as misdemeanors as prescribed. This bill will make a social media platform as defined that violates the above referenced provisions of law relating to personal rights through its algorithms that relay content to users or aids, abets, acts in concert, or conspires in violation of those laws, or is a joint tortfeasor in addition in an action alleging a violation of those laws, liable for specified penalties. The bill would declare its provisions to be severable and would declare attempted waiver of its provisions to be void and unenforceable. This bill will become operative on January 1st, 2027. California law prohibits all persons and entities, including corporations, from engaging in aiding, abetting, or conspiring to commit acts of violence, intimidation, or coercion based on race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, immigration status, or other protected characteristics. These protections are reflected in well-established civil rights statutes, include sections. I'm not reading all that, but you can see it. California has a compelling interest in protecting its residents from targeted threats, violence, and coercive harassment, particularly when directed at historically marginalized groups. That interest is especially acute in light of rising incidents of hate-motivated harm, as documented across the state as follows. The purpose of this act is not to regulate speech or viewpoint, but to clarify that social media platforms, like all other businesses, may not knowingly use this system to promote, facilitate, or contribute to conduct that violates state civil rights laws. Essentially, what it's saying is that there's already an understood idea that all your rights to be able to say what you want and feel what you want and then put that on social media is protected, just like what was said in the news station. But was basically trying to diagnose and say, hey, look, anything that would specifically target people in a way that would result in them being harmed physically, that's what they're trying to target. Honestly, I get that. It makes sense. When it comes to laws like these, I don't necessarily disagree with them. My only issue with them is that who dictates what is offensive and what can be deemed as hateful? Because my thing is this, right? In reference to what anti-Jewish bias and everything like that, I remember I looked up a little while ago what the Jewish community would deem as anti-Semitic. And a lot of it was mostly, hey, if you question certain things related to Jewish people, Jewish culture, that can be seen as anti-Semitic. If you was to say, well, hey, look, I feel X, Y, and Z, that can be seen as anti-Semitic. There's a website for it. You should look it up. It's actually pretty interesting because it's like, wait a minute, me making an illusion that a lot of the people that run or control certain things within our society are Jewish is considered anti-Semitic. That's interesting stuff. You should look into it. So stuff like that, right? If someone was to say something like that online, that could be considered anti-Jewish, rhetoric. You know what I'm saying? So it's a slippery slope. And it's just like what I said in my previous video when talking about Pam Bondi saying, hey, look, we're going to try to hold people accountable for hate speech and come after you legally. That's what I'm talking about. It gets kind of weird because who draws the line and how is it going to be upheld based off of, people's personal feelings? As using this title, social media platform means a social media platform as defined in section 22675 of the Business and Professions Code that generates more than $100 million per year in gross revenues. So essentially, most social media platforms, because most social media platforms generate that much in gross revenues. Just about all of them. If you use it, it most likely does. A social media platform that violates section 51.7, 51.9, 52, or 52.1 through its algorithms that relay content to users or aids, abets, acts in concert, or conspires in violation of any of those sections, or is a joint tortfeasor in a violation of any of these sections shall, in addition to any other remedy, be liable to a prevailing plaintiff for a civil penalty for each violation sufficient to deter future violations but not exceed the following. For an intentional, knowing, or willful violation, a civil penalty of up to $1 million. For a reckless violation, a civil penalty up to $500,000. If the evidence demonstrates that the platform knew or should have known that the plaintiff was a minor, the court may award up to twice the penalty described in this subdivision. For purposes of this section, deploying an algorithm that relays content to users may be considered to be an act of the platform independent of the message of the content relayed. A platform shall be deemed to have an actual knowledge of the operations of its own algorithm, including how and under what circumstances its algorithms deliver content to some users but not to others. So essentially what this is saying is, hey, look, these are the penalties, and then if based off of their own findings, right, in accordance with the law, we're going to give you these penalties if we find that, hey, look, is this reckless? Okay, is this a situation where you should have known because this is your platform, you're supposed to know that. The way this law moves is that it kind of has the understanding or the idea that the algorithm is its own entity and the algorithm pushes certain content towards people as opposed to you building your own algorithm based off of what you search up. So in other words, right now my algorithm on YouTube is based off a whole lot of political things and a little bit of a mix of like news stations. That's what's a mix of. That's my algorithm. But I built that algorithm. YouTube isn't pushing that on me. That's what I built myself based off my searches. If I was to change it up, which 6 months ago, it was something totally different. That's what will be pushed towards me. This makes it seem like the social media platforms themselves have control over what is being pushed to people in each individual person. And because of that, if something was to happen and it could be followed or tracked back to the social media platform, they will be held liable. With that being said, it is easy to see how that could become a slippery slope, because social media platforms don't want to get sued. They don't want to incur penalties. And they also want to maintain the amount of users that they have, because that's their revenue. So what I can see happening, I could be 100% wrong, is that social media will start limiting certain things that could be seen as hate speech or a little bit risque, because it could always be drawn back to, hey, your algorithm gave them this. Why did you give them this? Now, like I said, I could be 100% wrong in my rendition of this, but that's how I'm seeing it, and that's how I broke it down. It can become an issue because social media platforms over time, because they don't want to have penalties and because they don't want to get sued, they're going to start limiting certain messages out there. That's just the way I'm reading into it. Someone else could break it down for me better in the comments. Please do so. I'm not above reproach. I'm not above being taught something new, because, hey, look, we're all just trying to do this together. But yeah, that was the main purpose of this video. I just want to really break this down and keep people aware, because there's a lot of things that happen, a lot of bills that get passed that a lot of people don't even know about. Honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that I was trying to look up stuff with Gavin Newsom, I wouldn't have even known anything about this. This very much borders on the side of what I was saying before, slippery slope, because it's all up to interpretation. You know what I'm saying? It's all up to interpretation. It depends on who sees what as offensive, hate speech. You know what I'm saying? Because if you look at what happened with the Online Safety Act over there in the UK, right? Its main purpose was to protect children. But yet and still, because I just did a video on it related to it, we're seeing people get arrested just for posting what they would deem as hate speech, or just viewing certain posts. I'm not saying it's going to turn out like that, but like I said, a slippery slope. Well, you guys already know the drill. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, comment down below, tell me your thoughts. What do you feel about this bill? Do you feel like this is something that's going to lead into something much worse, or do you feel like this is just something that's going to make it so that instances of hate speech can be reduced? You know, me personally, I don't have much faith in it, because California passes a lot of laws that can be kind of bullshit, and honestly, anything coming from Gavin Newsom, I'm just not really trusting. That could be a little bit biased, but that's just me. And subscribe if you want to see more. Peace.